What's up everybody, welcome back or to the channel. So today we're going to be doing something that I've been looking to do for a little while now on my 2016 build that I'm working on, and that is to replace the stereo head unit. So again, I have a 2016 Tradesman Cummins that has just the basic Bluetooth radio, the real small screen. So I've been looking to update that to something a little bigger, a little bit nicer, and even preferably something with wireless Apple CarPlay. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Now, as you can see outside, it is still a cold, miserable day here in Pennsylvania. We were supposed to get more snow. So for now, it's just pretty much a lot of rain and ice and snow on the way. So I figured today would be a good day that we could start installing the new radio. So this right here is going to be the KENWOOD, the DMX907S, which is part of the Exelon series. So this one here is really just a receiver. It doesn't play DVDs or anything like that. But this one here does have the wireless Apple CarPlay. And I do have all of the wiring harnesses that I'm going to need to hook this all up. And including the adapter plate for the dash. So we're going to go ahead and start working on that. And we're just going to have to go out here and weather the storm and deal with the cold air because I really don't want to bring this truck out of the garage right now just because I still have the bumpers taken off the front and back because they're out at the paint shop getting painted. And the whole front clip is gone too, as you can see here. I have everything off the front just until I get the bumpers back. So stay tuned for that because I will be doing my next video on the updated paint match bumpers that I got for this truck. And in case you're wondering about the grill, I still have the chrome factory grill, but don't worry. But I do got something good to replace that. So stay tuned for that video because that's going to be pretty sweet. As far as the other updates on my bike over here, this is my Dyna Wide Glide build. I took the tank off last week. I sent that out with the bumpers to get paint matched because I was getting rid of the red flames. I'm having everything painted gloss black to match the bike. Probably later today, I will be changing out my factory bullet style looking headlight here to a more lower profile black light that will actually work with my fairing and make it look a little bit nicer. So stay tuned for that video. I'll be doing that later today. So without further ado, let's go ahead, get in the 2016 build. Let's start working on taking apart the dash and getting that old stereo unhooked. And then we'll start hooking up the new wiring, do a little bit of test run, and then we'll clean it up at the very end. So let's jump in and get this taken care of. Okay, we are back inside the truck. So as you can see here, this is the factory head unit. It's the smaller screen. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this whole unit out, and then we're gonna put this new adapter plate in there to give us the double DIN size. But first thing we gotta do is actually take off all this paneling right here at the top. There's usually 2 screws up here, but I'll have to double check. But you'll take that off, and then we'll get this whole front panel popped off because usually they're just a bunch of pressure clips. And then with that, we'll pop this off. We'll probably have to disconnect some of the electrical plug units that actually work your HVAC and all your other plug outlets and so forth. Get all that detached, unplugged, and get this exposed, and then we'll jump into getting things wired up. So let's jump in. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is actually just take out this top part that's sitting up here. Then the rest of this whole front end should start to just pop off. Let's get working on that. Okay, so as you can see behind here, I just pulled the front dash panel forward, and you can see all those plugs that we have to unplug. And once unplugged, that will allow us to completely remove this whole panel from the dash, allowing us more room to work on the radio. So let me go get those unplugged and we'll be right back. Okay, so I got all the plugs unplugged, all right. I'm going to leave this one plugged in just because it's hardwired. That actually goes to my compressor switch for the train horn. So I don't have a disconnect plug for that. So I'm just going to let that stay wired in. But I at least was able to pull the dash further forward to allow me access room to work on the stereo. So the next thing I want to do is actually start going ahead and removing these 4 bolts, okay, at each corner. That'll allow us to slide the whole head unit out and start giving us access to the wiring. So let me get working on that. Okay, so I went ahead and I got the 4 bolts out. Okay, so I believe I was just using a 7mm socket, like a mini socket with an extension, just because it's easier to use an extension to get past everything else. Got those 4 bolts come out, and you can see it just pops right out. I mean, that's literally all it is. So all you have to do now is unplug your harnesses, and then we can start wiring up the new harness that's down here on the floor, get that wired up to the radio, and then everything should just plug back in. So I shouldn't have to worry about taking out this clip right here. I still might, but I don't think I'm going to need to. So I'm hoping not to actually have to remove this and leave it in there. But if I needed to, I can go ahead and remove it. Not a big deal. Okay, so inside the box, we have all of our wiring harnesses and so forth. Mounting screws, cables, pretty much everything you need. Let's set that to the side there. You have your front surround plate, which I don't know if I'll need or not. It depends on the harness kit I have below, but we'll set this to a side. We also have all of the warranty information and so forth. So let's just file that all to the side, and let's get in here to the radio. All right, so here we go. I'm gonna leave the plastic film on the front. So what I assume is from when I used to do a lot of custom stereo installs, we're just gonna go ahead and slide the stereo unit out of this metal sleeve. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna mount the metal sleeve onto the mounting bracket kit that I have down there on the floor. And then once I get this all mounted in, then the stereo essentially is just going to slide right into the sleeve once the sleeve is actually mounted into the dash. So let me go ahead and start playing around with that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so typically what I like to start to do is take the wiring harness that goes to the back of the radio and start separating the wires into color groups and getting your tips spliced off at the end. Then what we're going to have to do is the harness that goes to your factory harness at the dash. We got to start matching up the colors and getting everything spliced in and soldered into these wires here that plugs into the back of the radio. Once we get the majority of the wires all figured out here, then we can start hooking up the rest of our cables for our dash cams and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and work on getting all these wires here matched up to these wires here, and then we'll figure out what our next step is from there. Now, as I'm sure you have all seen my videos before when I do a lot of wiring, I like to use these solder wiring connections like this. You can get these off Amazon very cheap. And what happens is, when you splice them together, they look like that. So what happens is there is a solder connection right in the middle. So once you slide this over your wiring fitting, you use like a little butane torch, melt the solder, everything is already soldered and heat shrinked all in one, and you get a nice tight fitting. So let me go finish up the rest of these and I'll be right back. Okay, so I got most of the wiring wired up over here. Then the next step I'm working on is this USB port. So you sort of have to take apart your center console a little bit. So I had to take off the leather seat cover, pull the upholstery along the side here, lift it up, pull the foam down to expose the tabs to get my USB port out of here. And then you have to basically unscrew the motherboard here, because it comes with a replacement one that will allow you to run your USB here to your new radio. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just following the directions here, and I should be done in 1 minute. Okay, so mind all the crazy wiring going on here, but we got it all worked out. Now, there are a few wires here that I do not need. Like some of these, this green one here and the pink one, and then there's a blue one for a remote for a amplifier, and different things like that. So those are a few things I don't need because my system doesn't have navigation and other things like that, because my truck was not set up for that. But if you did have that, you probably would use some of these wires. I don't have any aftermarket cameras for like the front and side and roof and all that stuff, so I didn't need a lot of these camera inputs over here either that were on the side. I didn't need those either. But I got all the wiring hooked up for the illumination and the speaker wires and the power wires. I got the USBs hooked up and taped. One of them goes to my center console USB, and then I have another USB that'll just run below the dash in case I wanted to plug something else in for whatever reason. I have the input jack or plugged in right over here that comes out of your harness that comes with that kit. I got my audio hooked up. I got my rear tailgate backup camera hooked up. So everything is wired and hooked up and working. So we're good to go there. Now, the next issue I had was behind here, there was like a metal bracket plate. I don't even know why it was there. I think it was there just as a brace for the factory stereo. Now, my particular receiver is the KENWOOD DMX907S. Now, I was under the impression that this was one of those shallow box units that was going to fit here. But then I noticed that it's a full-size unit. So I had to just get a hacksaw and cut this little bracket beam from here. It just went right across here. That's all it was. It looked like it was set up for like a single DIN radio, but it was really just a bracket. I cut that out so that this entire unit would fit in there and I would have plenty of depth for all my wiring. Then on the kit here, to create some stability, what I did was I added the side brackets to the front bracket kit, and then I just zip tied them on there. And then when that bolts into the front, that'll hold my head unit nice and sturdy and it won't wiggle around or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and get all the wiring pushed back in there and we'll get this all mounted up. So just to kind of give you an idea, the wiring harness that came here goes into all your factory stuff. Now there's a harness here that I don't need because again, that's for like GPS and so forth. Now I actually ordered this head unit here off Amazon. They had a good deal on it, so I got this head unit from Amazon. But I did chat with Crutchfield online and told them exactly what I have and what I'm going to be installing. And they sold me all of the wiring that I needed. So I have the wiring bracket that goes to the factory bracket. So that's actually an HD antenna adapter that Crutchfield sold me. So the wiring harness, the antenna adapter. Then I got a USB adapter, which is how I was able to hook it up into the center console because it came with a little computer motherboard that I had to replace all that. Got all that done. And a couple other little things. But pretty much Crutchfield sold me all the wiring that I needed. I got everything wired, everything hooked up. Everything's working. So now I just got to get it mounted and see what it looks like when it's all done. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, we are back. There's the finished product. Looks pretty nice, pretty streamlined. Looks really good. Let's turn on the truck. Let it load up for a second. Usually it takes about 10 seconds. There we go. We are in. So now with this, we actually have Apple CarPlay, wireless Apple CarPlay and everything else. I just have to connect. See, it just connected right now. So right now I'm just running the radio. Turn it up a little bit. You have HD radio. You can go into here. Goes down to all your different presets. You know, set up whatever presets you want. There's a lot of stuff you could do here. So much you could do. Then you can always just go to your main apps. You got Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, telephone, audio, AVN, USB, wireless mirroring, USB mirroring. There is just so much to go on here. A lot of stuff going on. Go home. Apple CarPlay is super neat, but I do have wireless Apple CarPlay here. So like you see right here, I have all this stuff in here, like my Spotify, which I use Spotify a lot. Messages, phone, calendar, maps. I got all that stuff here. So I could do any of that stuff here, which is really cool. And then you also just have regular Bluetooth audio. There's a lot going on here. So it's a really sweet radio. I'm really happy with it. Eventually, I'm going to go ahead and add some different custom wallpapers in the back. I mean, you can move stuff around, change your widgets around however you want. You know, you can actually just like hold something here. Flip around your widgets however you want. You could go over here, do like wallpapers, whatever you want to do. I mean, this looks really sweet. So again, I'm really happy with it. That looks way more custom now than what I had before, which, let me see if I have it. So yeah. So here I go. Here's the old little tiny screen factory There's the new one. That's pretty sharp. So again, everything works as it should. My backup camera works perfectly fine. So I got that hooked up. And then if I want to add more cameras, I can always add more cameras in however I'd like, you know, front, side, whatever I want. But so far, that is sweet. Looks fantastic. A lot of cool stuff you could do with this, which is really neat. And the wireless Apple CarPlay, that's awesome, because now I have access to my phone, music, maps, messages, you know, calendar. I could do Spotify without even plugging in my phone. It's a tiny bit laggy, but not really. I mean, it's pretty good. I can't complain. But for what it is, this is sweet. I'm really happy with it. Looks awesome. So there you go. So now I'm no longer rocking the standard stereo. I have something that's a little bit more high-end and high-tech. And we're good to go with that. So again, I can use my phone. You know, I can go on the phone. I can go into all my contacts, recent calls, voicemails, favorites. I mean, I could do pretty much anything I want here and be good to go. So really neat. Compass here. And again, if I want a bigger compass, I can drag the compass over here. Oh, hold on. There you go. Get the bigger compass if I'm looking for, you know, for traveling, radio. I can move all these widgets around and customize them however I want. So again, this is very nice. So again, really happy with it. This stereo here is the KENWOOD DMX907S. It does have the wireless Apple CarPlay. Super awesome. Really happy with it. I did get all of my wiring that I needed from Crutchfield, which I chatted with them online, told them the exact stereo I'm hooking up to, the exact truck I'm hooking it up to, and they sent me the cart of everything I needed. Everything that they sent me was in the box. I used it all. The install went pretty quick, and yeah, really happy with it. So there you go. And also, when I hooked up all the wiring, I hooked up the microphone from behind here, ran it up under the dash, and actually have it popped out right there. That way, for all my phone calls, my microphone is mounted right there. And then for the GPS signal, I ran that underneath, up along the side of the panel here, up there, and I just have it plugged in up there on the dash, keeping it as level as I could. I didn't really want to put it right here in the middle. I just wanted to tuck it out of the way. That way I really didn't see it. So that's what I did there. But again, that's what it looks like, and I'm really happy with it. All right, everybody, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this quick video. I didn't want to drag the entire process of wiring it all out because the wiring is fairly simple. You just have to match the colors of the wiring harness that attaches to your factory harness up to the wiring harness that attaches to your stereo. So as long as you match the wires and wire them up correctly, you're good to go. The hardest part of all the wiring was just hooking up the USB hub in the center console, because I had to take apart the console a little bit to get access to it. But the directions were very clear. I followed the directions to the T, and everything went good. Everything hooked up smooth, and everything is working perfectly good right now. So I am very happy with this KENWOOD DMX907S. The wireless Apple CarPlay works seamless. I'm really happy with that. And it looks phenomenal. It really does look good in the truck. And this camera does not do it justice, because again, when you're looking at the screen, it's not an HD super fancy screen, but it looks really, really good. So I'm really happy with it. I did not want to spend, $800, $900 to $1,000 on a head unit, but I'm really happy with it. I normally would have taken a little bit more time showing you all the details of where to plug wires in where, and how to plug and how to match up the wires. But I do apologize. It is just way too cold out here. If you look, we're probably in the 20s today, maybe even down in the teens. My entire driveway is literally a sheet of ice. I don't know if you can see this, but my entire driveway is turning into a sheet of ice. My backyard, I mean, if you look over here, that is literally a sheet of ice all over there. It is just way too cold out here. And so I didn't want to spend any more time out here than I had to, just because it is too cold. But at least I was able to get the stereo hooked up. I'm really happy with how it turned out. And it looks great, it sounds great, and I'm really happy with the outcome. So that's it for the video, guys. Hope you like this video. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. Leave me a comment if you have any questions at all. I will try to get back to you as quickly as I can. And do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because I do truly appreciate that. So as always, until then, see you in the next video.